The landmark Metro Fountain could soon have a new name. Locals' protests continue. A classic movie removed from streaming and a long-running law enforcement show canceled. And AMC plans to reopen. Just a few of the things we're going to talk about today with Gina Bullard from KCTV5 News this morning, here with a look at what is making news today. Around the nation, a lot of people are taking closer looks at some of these historical statues and what they actually represent. Here in Kansas City, a lot of talk has been focused around the Country Club Plaza and some of the J.C. Nichols fountain that we have there. What's the latest there?
Right, so J.C. Nichols fountain, then also the parkway that was named after J.C. Nichols is now a hot topic. This is a classic landmark, as you said, in the city. It's the crown jewel of the fountains, right? J.C. Nichols, of course, is the man behind the Country Club Plaza. He started that in 1920, but historians say that his policies are responsible for segregation, so much which still exists today. So a lot of people are calling for this change. He spent decades as the Kansas City real estate on the real estate board, and many credit him for the stark difference between the east side of Troost and then the west side of Troost now. Parks and Recs wants to rename it the Dream Fountain. So you can put in your input. You have 30 days to do that. They want to hear from people, so make your voices heard. Also, it's important to note, just overnight in Boston, the Christopher Columbus statue there was beheaded. So people are starting to protest and really want these symbols taken down. And I believe they spray painted the base of the Christopher Columbus statue, and they wrote "Columbus represents genocide." So people are angry. They want to see change. They don't want to see these reminders right in front of their faces.
And you know, I heard about this. I think was it last year when they tried to rename MLK, the Paseo Martin Luther King Boulevard, and people had suggested that instead of renaming the Paseo, they look at renaming J.C. Nichols Parkway. So this isn't something new that in Kansas City, but interesting that it's getting an additional push here. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes here in the next few weeks. Of course, we want to talk about local protests for today. There's still some scheduled?
Yeah, so one is called the Rally for Prosecutor Accountability. It's held by the Kansas City Freedom Project. That's at 11 this morning, has several speakers. They invited Jackson County's prosecutor Jean Peters Bakers to attend and answer some questions. There's also Stand Up for Black Lives. That march starts at the Shawnee Mission East parking lot at 6 tonight.
Interesting. We also got to talk about the coronavirus here because it's still ongoing. What's the latest with the coronavirus?
Okay, so we have the WHO backtracking today, the World Health Organization. So they made comments, one of their top scientists made the comment yesterday that asymptomatic transmission of the virus was very rare. Well, now the WHO has come forward and said that that is not known. It's just they don't know how many asymptomatic people, how frequent them transmitting the disease can be if they are carriers. But it could be as high as 40% of cases. So kind of a little confusion there. So they're kind of going back and forth. This is just one scientist who said it, but obviously causing a lot of hoopla.
And with a lot of places, we're out of the stay-at-home orders and places are slowly starting to reopen. Are we seeing shoppers go back in greater numbers than we were expecting?
Yeah, so people are not afraid to shop, but we are seeing that in big numbers. So Macy's CEO says that sales are down by about half compared to before the pandemic, but that's better than the 85% decline that they had predicted would happen. A lot of people are shopping online, and now they're back in the stores. Kohl's, same thing. They're down. They're doing about 3/4 of pre-pandemic sales. So that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I'm not crazy, but it's just interesting to see how people they're not holding back. They're back there. They're out in the stores. They're spending the money and stimulating the economy, as my dad would say. This is an interesting thing. Gone with the Wind was available on HBO Max, but now they've pulled that.
I know, this is really interesting. So Gone with the Wind is, of course, the 1939 classical American movie. It's the highest grossing movie of all time. Of all time. But they removed it, and a spokesperson says the movie is a product of its time. It depicts racial prejudices as commonplace in American society. And they said basically they'll think about putting it back out, but it needs some commentary. They need something with it, some explanation,
kind of explain it,
denounce. some of the systemic racism
Interesting.
going on.
I've honestly never seen Gone with the Wind,
me
but the only
either.
thing I know about it,
Yeah.
it was the last movie that my grandma saw in the movie theater.
Aw.
Like way back then. She never would see another movie. She must have seen the best one. So
Yeah.
also another thing that's been canceled is Cops. We've seen it
Yeah.
on TV for the last almost 35 years.
So this would have been in its 33rd year. It
Okay.
canceled. It was just supposed to release this week. Again, this is because of all the protests against police brutality. I mean, who really wants to watch Cops right now, right? Also, that show Live PD.
Yeah.
That same thing, been pulled from the schedule.
Oh, really?
Yes, from A&E Network. They said they don't know when the program will go back or if it will.
Interesting. And then finally, Netflix is launching a Black Lives Matter collection.
Yeah, so that comes out this week. 45 title Spike Lee's movie comes out on Friday. Also, we want to talk about AMC
Oh, that's
movie
right, yes.
theater. Yeah, so AMC is reopening in July. This is a big deal. This is over 1,000 theaters. And surveys are casting doubt on how many people are actually going to go back to the movies
yeah.
because just earlier this month, I mean, in June, so just 6 days ago, we had a survey that said 22% of people would go back. The rest of us don't feel comfortable sitting in a movie theater right now. They're going to have limited capacity, of course, blocked off seating, but still interesting. And there are 3 big movies coming out this summer, and that's what they're really hoping.
Yeah. I
drives
don't remember
people.
if it was you or Joe we were talking to sitting right here. Last week, I think AMC was just even concerned about not even reopening. So it's good to
That's
hear.
what they said last week. They
local
said
company
no revenue.
is coming
Yeah.
back. So good to hear there. Gina Bullard from KCTV5 News this morning. Thank you very much.